Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Harilos Eniziris, and this is my YouTube channel grecochess. And we continue the series of playing against the chess.com bots. We have already eliminated the first 21 bots. We start from the weakest, going to the strongest. 15 were beginners and 6 were intermediate. And let me share my screen with you. And it's time to face bot number 22. It is Salam from Turkey. Until now, we faced one of my compatriots, Eleni from Greece. The very first bot, and it seems the most popular of all, was Martin from Bulgaria, a neighbor to the north, and now it's time to face a second neighbor, Emir to the east. By the way, Martin from Bulgaria seems to be the most popular because the game I played against him, the video with the games, in fact, against him, have the highest number of views. But let's see what's going to happen with Emir. The rules are the same. I've explained them many times. I play with every bot twice. First, I have white and then the bot has black. Second, I have black and the bot has white. If I win a continuum, meaning if I have the white, I face the same bot black. If I have black, I advance to the next bot, next video with white. If there is a draw, I have to play the same game, same bot, same colors again, repeatedly until there is a desired result. And if I lose, it's the end of the series. And the question is how far we can go, because until now, the bots were, I would say, quite generous. You would make mistakes and they would make bigger mistakes and I could still advance, in spite of a few blunders here and there. But let's start with Amir, who is telling me my things. I'm a grandmaster. Don't tell them otherwise. No, I'm not going to tell them otherwise. I hope I can show them otherwise. But let's start. And I have the white and they start as always with the e-pawn. Why the e-pawn? Uh, One can start with the d-pawn, the c-pawn, or even the knight going to f3. But the e-pawn is the one that is the more exciting, offers more tactical possibilities. The best move, says Amir, and he plays the Sicilian. Pawn to c5. My knight goes to c3. By the way, I could have also put the other knight to f3. Now here I have to be careful. I cannot advance my pawn to d4 because it's attacked twice and defended only once. That's why I developed my other knight to f3. By the way, Emir has a rating of 1200, the highest rating we've ever faced. Let's see if this will be too high for us or if we can advance. A few exchanges in the center. Now my knight is attacked twice, my knight at d4 and defended only once with the queen. That's why I'm going to defend the second time. Until now, Emir has placed theory. These moves are okay for this type of Sicilian. My bishop to e2. I'm castling. And my knight is attacked. How to do? Well, let's exchange knights because I don't want to go backwards. Now we'll exchange queens and then I'm going to pin the knight. If this bishop on g7 disappears, that's all I want. But let's see how can we make it disappear. The problem is that the knight can leave its place. Can I open the board and have my rook take on f4? What would happen if I take with the pawn, knight takes to e4, okay. Mir doesn't get the pawn back. I'm a pawn ahead. How can we advance? How can we increase our advantage? That's the next question. What would happen No, I have a nice pawn at f7, nice free pawn. Let's take it. Not only that, my rook is on the 7th rank. I can bring the other rook to f1. This rook is attacked, but I can take another pawn on b7. Of course, I knew I would lose that pawn. Can we attack the rook? Yes, and then we might be able to take the pawn on a7. I have already Oh, I won the rook. I've got a good feeling about this, Emir, but your feeling is not so good. It's there is a check if I take it, but I win in exchange. Okay, you can do your check. You don't threaten anything. If my rook was on a7, of course, that would have been terrible because I would lose my rook. I can put my king on f1, and then there is no danger of any check. Let's exchange. I'm ahead already by +4, meaning in a change in 2 pawns. Although it's not very nice. Oh, it's not very safe to have two bishops near me, and then the king can go to f8, and story is, what if the rook goes to f8 and checks? If rook goes to h8 and checks, it could be quite dangerous, because where can my king go? It can only go to e1. How can I avoid it? Let me put my rook on f7. Of course, attacked, but have a move that I can use it to move my rook. Where to put it? I want to put it on the f file, so the rook on f8 cannot check me. Nope, nope, no, yes, yeah, yes, yes. Let me put it on f3 and see what happens. The rook attacks the pawn on b2, but since my rook protects the knight on c3, I can move the pawn safely. The bishop, what it did, it attacks my rook, and my rook needs to stay on the 3rd rank to protect my knight. What would happen if I take the bishop? King can check on f8, which I don't like. That did not happen. Let me start attacking the bishop on g4. Okay, exchange, nice. I didn't have a nice position with the two bishops near my king and the possibility of a check from f8. My king had very few squares to escape. It was not made yet. My king still had, for example, the e1 square, but I was afraid of what's called a mating net. That little by little, my king would be in a tougher place, and either it would end up in checkmate, or I would have to lose material to save my queen, to save my king. Okay, let's see what will happen. No, there is no chance of pin. If this pawn on c6 was not there, I could not put my rook on d3 because the bishop could go to b5. What I want to do now is exchange the rooks. What I'm afraid, I don't want to put my rook on d8 because yes, it attacks the bishop, but if the rook takes on e4, it both takes a pawn and also defends the bishop. I'm going to propose an exchange. Now the bishop is attacked and there's only one move that can save it, exactly. I want to save my pawn. The only way I can save it. Want to advance my king. Don't want the a pawn to start advancing. If you remember from a previous video, although this time I was the winner, I was down material, but by advancing my pawns and promoting, I was able to win against that. I was in a very bad position. Oh, good. We took the bishop. Let's see if we can change the rooks. It's a check. Okay, good. Good in the sense that I know what's happening. Not good that it's having check, but okay. Either we change rooks or I win the c6 pawn. My kids have never checked me before. Well. Now you realize what a check means. I think I have a good position. I have one extra rook, plus quite a few extra pawns, 3 extra pawns. Let's attack the pawn at a5. Good, we got this one as well. Check again. What can we do? Let's start advancing our pawns. Out of my 5 pawns, 4 of them are passed pawns. Yep, all my pawns are protected, at least the ones that are attacked. Into a4, okay. I'm going to take my pawn, take it, the pawn at e4 that is. No, I didn't even want to take it. Okay, let's protect it then. What can Emir do? He can put his king on d4 and threaten the pawn on e4. Not that this will change anything, but why not avoid it if we can? Let's threaten now the other pawn on g4. Save this one. Good, we got this one as well. King. We're going to set now a nasty trap. If Emir takes the pawn at b6, exactly, we're going to exchange rooks. Then my a pawn promotes. Is there any stalemate if I promote to a queen? No, b6, d6 squares are available for Emir's king. Oh no, my undefeated streak is over. Yes, Emir. Yes, poor Emir. Now, how can we finish a game as fast as possible? I'm almost sure the evaluation has a few M's in front. Okay, let's constrain the king. 3 or 4 moves at most. Queen will check at h7, and the king at rook will at g8, and it is over. Whoa, maybe you should teach my kids. Thanks for playing. Amir, why not? Your kids, by the way, may want to watch my YouTube channel. Tell them about my YouTube channel. There they can learn some things about chess. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but it seems that I know much more than your kids. And now let's do the review. Let's see how did we do. You see that after a little while, Emir was following the theory up to a point, but when there was no theory, Emir started making one mistake after the other. I had 89.9 accuracy, Emir 83.5. I played for 2,000, 50, and Emir played quite well, 1850. Look, Emir, you may want to show your kids that you may have lost a game, but at least you played like an 1850 rated player, much higher than your 1200 rate. Let's see the various categories. No brilliant or great moves. Best 27 for me, 21 for Emir. Excellent 21 versus 24. Good 5 versus 4. Book. We played quite a lot of theory. My first 8 moves and Emir's first 7 moves were theory. Now, in the negative category, I had 2 inaccuracies versus 5 of Emir. I had 1 miss, and Emir had 1 mistake and 1 blunder. It seems the difference was not that big if you look at this table, but if you look at this graph here, it seems that very fast. Did Emir have an advantage anywhere? I don't think so, but after a while, things for Emir started going down all the way. Let's go move by move. Let's see what happened. Until here, we have theory. I'm not going to describe the theory, just to tell you it is Sicilian. It's called the accelerated dragon defense, if you saw it before. Let's see, where do we deviate from theory? Here, the eighth move of Emir. Emir should have moved the D instead of the E pawn, because the D pawn opens the diagonal for the bishop, while the E pawn does nothing. If anything, it blocks the bishop on G7. What would the computer want me to do? Want me to push my knight to B5 instead of exchanging? Then the knight can go to D6 and block the D7 pawn. That would have been the best move. Let's see how much did it cost me. I was up 1.1, I go down to 0.2. Let's also shrink this so you can see better the score. I was from 119 to 0.21. Still ahead, but much less. Yes, the best move. The computer didn't like me pinning the knight, would rather have me push my pawn, and so my advantage from 0.21 goes down even lower to 0.04. That's an inaccuracy. Clearly, why did you move your king? I mean, nothing to gain, no development. If anything, it might even give me a chance of a back rank, although that's very unlikely. Probably would rather have me move my bishop to c4 and attack the opponent f7. Inaccuracy, now I'm down minus 0.44. And this was a blunder. So from having an advantage of, from Emir having an advantage of 0.44, now up to 262. Clearly, Emir should have taken the pawn at e4. This I have said it during the game. Not only that, now grab a pawn, grab another pawn, attack the rook. Inaccuracy when you give me the rook, I mean, when you give me the exchange, and my difference goes up to 446. The computer would rather have me put my rook on e7 and attack both bishops. The computer wants me to put my king on h1, but h1 means that there could be possibility of back rank. That's what I didn't want to happen. But here there's possibility of check from f8. If you see on the board, my king is in a not very nice position. Out of the neighboring squares, my king can only go to f1, meaning if I face a check from f8, my king can only go to e1, and then bishop can check from f2, my king will either have to suffer what's called a discover check or otherwise go all the way to d2. Maybe the rook can go to d8. So Emir has a very strong attack, not easy to calculate everything. Maybe there's a mate, maybe there is not. It seems there is not, otherwise the computer would have given Emir a much better evaluation than giving me plus 290. And this is the best. I control critical squares, meaning I avoid the possibility of rook going to f8 and checking, and then my king has to go to e1, then perhaps there is a check from f2 with the bishop, and then either I have to, if I go back to f1, bishop, then I have a discovered check, and who knows what the dark-colored bishop can do. If I go to d2, then rook can go to d8 and check me, and it's not easy to calculate what I could do. Perhaps I think the only safe square would be to go, without losing material, would be my king to go to c1, and really it could be very dangerous if I didn't put my rook on f7. Attacked? Yes. No surprise you get to move the rook to safety, but what does safety means? There are many safe squares, but I definitely wanted it on the f file to avoid the check from f8. And there were two squares, f4 and f3. I wasn't sure which one was better. I'm glad that the computer agreed with my choice. F3 has advantage, it offers extra protection to the knight at c3, which will become important. Because now I have the freedom to move my pawn to b3 and save the pawn. Otherwise, what could I do? Perhaps I could put my rook on b1, but if there was a second attack, yes, for example, if bishop took to c3 and there was no rook to take it back, then I'm in a bad shape. There's a pin. Attacks. Yes, I attack now the bishop. And finally, I have a big advantage again. The computer didn't like this move. In addition, my knight on c3 was pinned, the rook on a1 was behind. And if you pin somebody else's piece, don't do the exchange unless you have to, because you lose the advantage of the pin. So we are going to exchange. Emir loses. The computer says it's playable. I don't think it is, because the computer loses Emir loses the two bishop advantage, the pair of bishops, loses the advantage of the pin, loses the strong attack with the rook and the two bishops. The computer wants the bishop to go all the way back to c8. If I was in Emir's place, I would definitely have made the check on f8, and then I would have saved the bishop. But I did the correct thing. Now I'm up by 493. Bishop is saved, of course. Rook attacks bishop. Double my rooks on the d file. And yes, excellent. Would have been the best move for the bishop goes to e3 to support the pawn from behind. Yes, that's what you usually do with passed pawns. But I wanted, if possible, to exchange rooks since I'm ahead in material. Be the bishop. Takes. Takes. King becomes active. Little by little, I want to activate my king. Activate my king more. And this is, I don't understand why the computer says it's a good move. This is a blunder. You lose your bishop. Your opponent is losing a bishop, but you are already in a winning position anyways. What is a okay. Yes, even if you're in a bad position, don't give away your pieces for free. This was really a free bishop I got. continue trying to grasp pawns and activate. Yes, move out of the check, because if there was check, would have changed rooks and I was in a very good position. Change pawns, threaten. You like their choice. I would have put the rook on e7, at least to save the pawn. Now I'm pushing my pawns as much as possible. It's more or less clear what I'm doing. Gee, the best move would be to put the rook on a6. Why would that be the best? I put my rook on c7 and then push my pawn to b7. I try to push the pawns while keeping them safe as much as possible. And this is an excellent. Here there's a mini trap. Trap in the sense I'm going to lose a pawn, but after I exchange the rooks, I'm guaranteed the win. And of course, it's an inaccuracy. But what can you do? You grasp the pawn, hope your opponent doesn't see it. Knight in 7 for me. Let's see how smooth I was. 6, 5, 4, 3, still in 3. Perhaps if I put my rook, it would be making fewer moves, but then the king would have to go to the 6th rank and 3 moves still. 2 moves now, 1 and 0. And this concludes my first game with Emir. I won with white and I advanced to the next game. I'm going to play with the black pieces, and Emir has a white. Now Emir greets me with merhaba. Not exactly sure what this means. Emir starts with the e pawn. I'm going to play symmetrically. The knight goes to 3. The bishop, this is the Italian Open. The bishop goes to c4. I have to be careful now. Which is the best way to defend? There are many ways to do it. Many people will put their bishop on c5. For me, in practice, bishop to e7 has been proven the most efficient. We need to exchange pawns. I'm not taking chances with allowing Mir to push his pawns. Mir doesn't want to take my pawn back. What will I do? Be careful, because if we change knights and I use my bishop to threaten the queen, queen can go to d5, and if I put my bishop on e6 to attack it, then queen goes to b7, takes my pawn. I'm going to threaten the bishop. Now develop the other knight. Threaten the bishop. Castle. If I don't like the pawn that's already on h4. Oh my. Knight has nowhere to go but h8. I need to get rid of this pawn. It's becoming too dangerous. Know what I'm going to do. If Emir allows me. Bishop to f1. Goes backward away. That's definitely not a good move. And I'm going now to threaten the queen. And no matter what Emir does, I'm winning the... No, not so easy. I thought I would win. It's going well for me. Perhaps. But I have another pawn to win on. here on e4. Please now my heavy material. Attacking my bishop. My bishop now threatens the pawn on b2. It is really a very dangerous spot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to threaten the rook on a1. If you take my pawn and take it back, otherwise we're talking about promotion. With a mate threat. How to defend? I can put my queen on f6, but then I lose my knight. I'm +2. I'm in a very, very bad shape. I need to say this thing. Yes, but if you take my knight, I take your rook. Here we are. And that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, the series is over. Ouch. Don't tell my kids that you took my queen. And believe it or not, that's the end of the series. Much earlier than what I was expecting, was hoping. But let's analyze again. How did it go so wrong? I was ahead at some point, -320. Emir played 71.6, I played 55.9. Emir played 1300 better than his 1200. Myself, I played 1000. And let's start the review. These things happen in chess. You're going to lose. You're going to lose and from people weaker than you, and you'll play poor games, but I'm not going to let this distress me and disappointing. With a wonderful series that lasted for 22 bots. Before we do this, we didn't go through the numbers. The comment of the computer says not every game goes your way, but there are always some learning moments that are worth reviewing. So we're going to review it now. Till now, we're talking about theory. And Emir plays a poor move. Did not take back my pawn. And I should have developed my knight. I'm attacking the bishop. Winning a tempo, but not the best move. My knight goes to f6. This is a blunder. You can pick up a free pawn, meaning the pawn at e4. I didn't. I attacked the bishop. I miss. Ooh, I had another square. I should have put my knight on e5. I saw most places my knight would be lost. I didn't see the e5, and I put my bishop to the corner. That was a mistake, and that was a blunder. Attack the queen. I take the pawn now, but I'm behind by 0.95. And this was a mistake. I'm already up by 3.20. What did I do wrong? I should have uh, placed my pawn on g6 to attack the knight. Instead, I attack the rook. Great. Take it back, great, but Emir is ahead by 157. Threat as mate. And this was a blunder. What better move I had? Oh, the better move was to block the mate by putting my knight on g6. Instead, I gave Emir a chance to mate me into moves. And I didn't see it until it was too late. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the series. I played against quite a lot of bots. Let's see the bots again. I defeated Emir with white, but I lost with black. Let's review them one by one. I started with Martin from Bulgaria, Wayne from Singapore, Fabian from Gibraltar, Juan from Venezuela, Philip from Poland, Eleni from Greece, Noel from Finland, Oliver from Ireland, Milika from Serbia, Aaron from Iceland, Sanjay from Liberia, Mina from Iran, Zara from Malaysia, Santiago from Chile, Karim from Egypt, and these were the beginner bots. I was very successful, all of them. Let's do the intermediate. Maria from Mexico, Maxim from the Czech Republic, Hans from Greenland, Aziz from Nigeria, Laura from Austria, Sven from Slovenia, and now Emir from Turkey. Win with white, lost with black. The series is over, and I'm waiting at your comments. What did you think about this series? And what ideas would you have from now on? This is Harry Lasane series. We concluded a series placed against the chess.com bots. Hope you learned something from that. Thanks for viewing. Thanks to the subscribers. Thanks to the ones that have clicked the like buttons. My channel, this is the channel grecochess. Goodbye.